I'm gonna dance by myself like nobody's watching. Don't really care if my rhythm's off, 'cause I'm gonna dance like nobody's watching me. I'm gonna dance by myself like nobody's watching. Don't really care if my rhythm's off, 'cause I'm gonna dance like nobody's watching me.
And welcome back to the Crochet Crowd live here this morning on a beautiful Thursday morning here in Nova Scotia. And today we are strengthening one of the designs that I've done. It's, I think, the second or third most popular pattern that we own. And so I am updating the crochet diagram. I did the diagram back in 2021, and my strength of doing diagrams has significantly improved to the point where the original diagram for this actually is really horrible in retrospect to my skill today. So my goal is to strengthen that up. The other problem that is with this particular diagram, which I've got a problem solve, and you can let me know how you're feeling about that, is that there's a lot of use of the wrong side, right side, but then there's two rows where I decided that I was going to use the wrong side in a row. So anyway, it gets a little complicated. I'm making sure you turn the damn thing over. So we'd like to welcome MDL Crochet Michael all the way from the United States, Amarillo, Texas. I think about where that was. When you go further in from Canada, we end up with the roadkill of the raccoons. But by the time you get midway through the U.S. and then down in the south, the raccoon turns into armadillos that are on the side of the road there. So kind of working on that. It's a nippy day here in Nova Scotia. It was a beautiful day yesterday, so our weather is switching around. It was a beautiful day, and then we're going to have a really significantly warm weekend, which is going to be the first touch of it. Daniel's going to start doing garden cleanup and etc., getting that started over the weekend. So that's kind of what's going on here. You can let me know how you're feeling this morning, where you're from. So anyway, so I'm kind of just working my way through stuff. And is there anything going on, any gossip? I was with Karen all day yesterday. We went down to Nova Scotia. We're in Nova Scotia, but we went down to Lunenburg, which is an hour south of the Crochet Crowd here. It's one of the pit stops for, I should say, detours. So it's almost like the Amazing Race. We're picking everybody up at the airport hotel on our summer trips, and both of them, they both start at the same spot. And for one's in July, one's in August, but the route is exactly the same. So by the time we do the August one, we're going to be doing the route twice. And we have Tracy's Rolling Yarn Shop. That is you've probably seen it if you followed me here on YouTube, or primarily probably Facebook more than anything, is that Tracy's Rolling Yarn Shop is a yarn shop that is on wheels. And so Tracy, when we pitched the idea that we're going to be doing Nova Scotia, she goes, I want to follow the bus. So she's going to be following us around our route, and we're on her route anyway. So she just timed it so that basically there's a driving addiction behind the bus the whole time, like your yarn. Tracy's actually a lot of fun. She's actually here in Nova Scotia. Well, she's obviously in Nova Scotia, but she's actually here in my region this weekend on Sunday. She'll be here for the first time. I think it's her first visit of the season for this year, and she'll be at the Louis Millet complex, which is just down the road here. And so it's always nice to see her. She's got fun little pins and yarn, and she's probably stocked up over the winter and everything like that. So if you're interested in any of our events, you can find us. You can find them at the events section of our website of thecrochetcrowd.com. The bus tour is full for both of them, but you never know. There might become a space. I think almost everybody's paid in full at this point. We're pretty close, and I'm already starting to pay the bills. So we have a sailboat that we have purchased. So our group is on a sailboat in Halifax. We have an exclusive whale watching tour for both of them. So we have the thing and a Zodiac for that, because our group is going to be pretty big. And so we're pretty much limited by the bus. So we have to, the whale watching tours that we are going to leave our hotel, our hotel. And then we're going to be driving, and then we have to take two ferries, boat ferries, not like Michael and I, and we take those to get to the whale watching. So we are very limited by the bus space on this whole trip. So it's not like a cruise where we can just load it up because there's like 3,000 spots on the ship. So Megan's here this morning. She is one of my neighbors just across the way, and she wasn't feeling well yesterday, so she missed group last night. It was a full room as usual. We have a really fun group of women that get together on Wednesday evenings. We call ourselves Stitchers in the Valley. It's one thing that I created when I came here to Nova Scotia. I didn't have that at home, but I was in a region where there wasn't a lot of crocheters or knitters, as far as I know. But here in Nova Scotia, we're very much known for being a very artisan and very creative. And so that was one of the appeals to come to Nova Scotia and picking up life and restarting here. So yeah, where was all this posted and how early? So the Nova Scotia trip was, when did that go? I think that went out in January. So that was out in January. And then the first group of people, it was like we had one tour. And it was so busy. It was so like on the waiting list. So many people. We created 2 tours, and but you never know. There might become a space available in the future. But it was done in January, and then we did a call out. I think 2 weeks ago that there was a few spaces left on our one tour, and so you'll find that there if you're interested in that. So we don't have any further events booked other than we have crochet cruises in November. We actually just still having people sign up for that. We have Crochet After Dark on board. So we have a workshop program, and then we have a crochet. We have a Crochet After Dark. So we have workshops and then Crochet After Dark. So they're 2 different programs running at the same time. So Crochet After Dark is that you find stuff to do all day and you meet up with our group in the evenings or special times. And then the workshop people are with us during the day when we're not in port. So I saw one event, it wasn't a crochet related one, where they were actually at the ports and they're still doing workshops. And I'm like, God, people want to get off the ship and shop and eat and, eat more and do all that. So we never do workshops while we're stopped at a port, because that's the whole point of stopping at a port, is like it's your vacation all in one. So the first cruise, Western Caribbean to Cozumel and all those places, is really port intensive. So there's not a lot of sea days, but the second one is to the ABC Islands, Aruba, Bonaire, and Carousel, and that's a 10-day cruise, I think, right? So anyway, so there's still Crochet After Dark available for those programs if you're interested in that, and you'll find that on our events section of our website if you're interested. So yeah, never any pressure. And it is a full program. It's not like you just show up and whatever. So there's activities and there's but the Nova Scotia trip is going to be fun, like really fun. And Karen is my co-host for that. If you haven't met her yet on the thing, she's part of our Loose Ends on Thursday nights. She's my neighbor. I can see her house from here. And she's also a friend from the old days. So I've known her a long time, and we met each other at the Creative Festival back many years ago. We were both vendors, and we just, one of the vendors invited Daniel and I for supper, and she was sitting at the table at this restaurant. And I'm like, who the hell are you? So anyway, it just clicked. But we only ever talked to Karen when we were at the shows. We never talked between shows. And so she said that she was coming out to Nova Scotia to come and look and go on vacation, but it was always their mission to move to Nova Scotia. So she just moved that timeline up like 10 years or something. And so anyway, so she came out here, and the next thing I know, they're looking at a property, and the next thing I know, they put an offer on a property, and the next thing I know, they're having a house built in the whole 9 yards. So they have done that. So Karen's a lot of fun. She works for the Canadian Armed Services, if you didn't know that, and she's she's an officer, and yeah, so that's it. So yeah, so she's an active military person. But here in my region, I looked it up actually the other day. I forget what the number was. Is the number 13? I think there's 13 military installations here, like bases and stuff. And 40% of all Canadian military assets are here in Nova Scotia. So it's probably because where we are in the map. So anyway, if you don't know, if you're not active in the military, you usually know somebody that knows somebody, or somebody's part of that. And some of the women that come to our stuff is actually retired military as well. And actually, it's so funny too on the U.S. stuff when we do U.S. events. A lot of the women are retired military from the U.S. military. Um, and some of them are straight, others are they, and others are lesbian, and it all seems to work, and it's actually really quite fun. So it's interesting how that dynamic of like being in the military versus the yarn arts is kind of working hand in hand. But I think a lot of the crochet is based on relaxation and calming your brain down, because there's probably a lot of stuff that goes in your brain. And MDL here, Michael here, is also a veteran as well. So so that's kind of an interesting thing. So one thing that I am noticing loose ends on Thursday nights. So tonight's the night. I have no idea who the guest is, as always. I wanted to be surprised. Is that oh yeah, Laura here was in the Air Force. And the interesting thing is that a lot of the people so far have been in the U.S. military in some way so far, and many have been active in amigurumi, of making the dolls and stuff. So that's kind of new for me, because I'm not really into the doll stuff. I'm more into the blanket stuff. So I'm learning a lot with it. And one of the things that somebody mentioned to me the other day is like, well, are these people really a mystery for you? And I'm like, yeah. And the reason for it is, like, if you see a newscast or maybe a talk show, the host already knows the backstory of the person. And so what's happening is that if I know the backstory already, if you see me on camera and they're telling me the backstory, my eyes are going to glaze over, and they're going to like, okay, I've heard this twice now. So the neat thing about the loose ends is that Karen knows the backstory, but she doesn't tell me anything. And because of that, I'm hearing the story for the first time. So the reaction is truly authentic, which I think is the only thing that you can be in today's era. So I'm just going to let the cat in for the millionth time. Get your ass in here. We have to talk about that litter box too, and the plant. So anyway, yeah. So anyway, it's been a lot of fun to do loose ends. Been always a thing I've wanted to do. It's just I just can't devote the time to actually vet people and to be able to go through everything and to arrange all that. And then if people cancel, then I'll have a bird. So Karen is handling all that because that's her specialty. So anyway, I'm kind of here just working behind the scenes tonight. And so we have some old friends and new friends here on the chat. As you can see, Karen is actually joining us as well. Wendy, my assistant, Wendy LCM is my better half here on the Crochet Crowd. And Ola Joe, she's the Crocheting Sailor. She is here as well. Oh God, there comes Gordon. Oh my God. Now, see, they let anybody into this chat, clearly. Yeah, so anyway, I'm gonna just work on the other screen, and you can sit and chat. And apparently, I know I'm a guy, but apparently I can do two things at one time. Don't tell Karen. And that's kind of what we're going on today. I do have my cup of tea with me this morning. Yep. Rainy days in California. So you're finally getting rain over there. Were you guys not getting rain? I think for the longest time. Has that been the biggest? That's been the biggest thing. So I'm going to work on the other screen here, and it's basically my design. I just want to strengthen up the design. The pattern is almost embarrassing, the way that it currently looks. So I'm just going to strengthen that up and get that stuff to go. And I was so bad at the design. The design is actually just only done with one side because I didn't know how to do it as a square at the time, because I took a course with Edie Ekman. It's a paid course, and she taught me the ins and outs. So I knew things, but she kind of like polished those. It's like Karen. Okay, I can slap paint on a pig anytime, but it's whether you want to paint the nails or the lipstick. So it's those refinement of details, right? Yeah, so that's kind of fun. So yeah. So somebody needs a link for something. So I don't know what that means. Is it the link for the Tonight Show. Is that what you're looking for? Yeah. So anyway, so Karen is currently working on a new masterpiece. She's a mixed media artist behind the scenes, just so you know. But she's got a new Facebook page. Am I calling you a pig? No. I'm just saying that, you know, you can take me from being able to slap paint on a wall to actually getting the fine details. So, yeah. So, yeah. So I will get you that link after the broadcast, Karen. It's actually currently in the back end, if there, but I will get it for you. Don't worry about it. So I'm just going to work on my stuff for now because I have to get out of that this broadcast to get you that link. So I will refrain from doing that at the moment. So what is the best way to, if you're on the right side, wrong side? I'm thinking this is a bit confusing, the way that it's written, like as a diagram. So I'm going to have to determine what I'm going to do. So if you're not familiar with crochet diagrams, I always go through this spiel, but I'm not a strong reader. If it's on Facebook, then it must be real. But I've always been a horrible reader. I've never read a book in my adult years at all, barely as a kid. I'm just not a great reader. So when people email me long diatribes of stuff, I'm like, oh my God, I'm not getting through that because my ADHD kicks in. And Karen informed me that I had that. So then I know we won't even go there. So apparently it's a superpower. So we're going to stick with that load of nonsense. So Karen, you turned Mikey into our proper girl. Okay, we won't go there, Michael. Jesus. Anyway, so we're gonna go through. So the secret to the diagrams is that I learned to do crochet with diagrams, not through the writing of the words. And so one of the stupidest things is that I created the crochet crowd without actually knowing how to read a down pattern. And then somebody started asking me questions, and I was like not answering emails because I'm like, oh, I don't know what it's saying. So anyway, so that I realized that I better actually clean up my act and actually figure out what this stuff is. So the squares are the hardest. The rectangle is worse, but the squares are really hard to be able to maintain this kind of stuff. So I have figured out the mathematics on dimensionals for these diagrams. So we just use certain things. So all the shapes match each other. It's just a matter of puzzling the shapes together. Is there a program that can do this? Yeah, but it sucks. What is missing? Something is missing in that. Oh, interesting. Okay, we'll just take that. So there's always two colors, there's blue and black, unless it's unusual. So, and I think my diagram is going to be a little unusual today because I think that I need to do a better job on communicating right and left side. So the first row or round of a pattern is always black. So we are going to maintain that. And it's all about mathematics. And I cried myself through math so many times. Oh, it's just hell. Yeah. I missed the beginning. What is the diagram? It is it's a baby blanket, and there is currently 17 technical rows in this one here. And so we want to figure out what our math is. So it's all about spacing. And then once you understand spacing for this, it's just a matter of it being time consuming to do this. The other thing that I was talking about, okay, so do you see how it's kind of farther apart from that? This is going to be a problem right there. So I'm going to shrink my square down and just bring the center in a little bit more. And I'm going to shrink him down. And then we're going to retry this guy. Getting started is always the hardest part. Let's see how close these guys are together. I think we should get it a little closer. Let's go a little bit more. The bigger these shapes are, the harder it is. The bigger the diagram, obviously. I know. I'm here all day, folks, so just don't mind me. And apparently, crochet diagramming makes Karen all squirrely and stuff. So, anyway, and the sense is that it's a lot of information on the screen, but she can handle it because she's a good girl. The other thing is, what was I going to say? I was going to say something brilliant, but I don't think that's in there. Yeah, so anyway, that's kind of a long story. I'm sticking with it. So it's just a matter of getting started. So we are just going to get ourselves started, and the consumer, you, is 3. So we're going to, you will not see this number. I'm only putting it here so I can see it myself, so I can keep track of the counting. So it's all about the number of there. Oh, and the other thing we don't worry about is the we do not worry about chaining up rows and stuff. We only worry about that at the end. That was my biggest problem for doing crochet diagrams. And so we're going to get rid of these guys. And we're going to move him onto layer 1. Instead of the current layer. And then we're going to rotate this guy. The rotational tool is the most frustrating thing of this whole program. There's one thing at Adobe Illustrator here that they do not do is that you can't make the center of your document like the actual master center of the document. So you always have to nail that cross. I guess that's not a good term. You have to always nail that to be the center. We're going to rotate him just slightly. Okay, and then we're just going to put this as number 1. So the numbers always have to be, let me just put 2, because I'm going to get myself up to 15. Make sure it fits in the box, and it does. So the numbers are always in black. So let's make that. And we're going to make, yeah, it's 15. It's good. And we can center that guy out too. And thank you so much, Jilly, for the tip. A little extra work for, yeah. So I got my little bracelet, my Wonder Woman. Karen and I made bracelets, but I can't put them on by myself. Don't tell her though, because we worked hard on those. I know. Just a disaster, folks. So, and then I am going to put this is going to be for my own benefit, but it'll be on the diagram. And we'll have to convert that to anyway, the bracelets have made a huge difference. Huge. So because we're going back and forth on this thing for right side, wrong side, it matters in which direction you're reading the diagram in. Yep. Enigmatic, yeah, I know. Just a wreck here this morning. So anyway, so everything is so when you have crochet diagrams, what it's leaning into down here is exactly where it's going. So do you see that there's 3 that's coming down onto this? It doesn't mean it's going into this chain. It means it's going to a space. There's ways to be able to determine when a designer wants that. Okay, so the next one is going to be okay. So the next one we're going to get ourselves to 1, 2, 6. So we're going to get ourselves to 7, 7, and we are going to use blue. So we're getting our shapes all in order here. And so I have to determine the height before I can move the green box. So the green box is just is an indicator to show where it's going to hit the corners. And this time I need blue. So we're going to grab our blue. So the line that is facing straight up here is the first center point of the first shape. And so anyway, we have 7 points. So this means that there's going to be 7. So there's going to be 5. So I want to indicate where those points are so I can actually see it, right? So we're doing a blending tool and we're blending. So these are where the tops are of the stitches. And in this particular one, we also have chains. So we're going to grab a blue chain with us. I like when we do chain work in stitches. So we have we're going to move him over. This guy goes over. We're going to get that center point and drag. And we are going to grab both of these guys. And because the distance is the same, you can just drag the shape over and it will match. And the only difference is that we have to make sure that the shape is going into a corner. So the middle bar is always tilted slightly. It makes it harder for doing crochet diagram work. It means that you can't just reflect stuff because then it tilts down on the one side. So if it's reversed, if it tilts down on the other side, it doesn't look right. Yeah. So yeah, so this is a superpower, I think. But most of you know that I used to be in automotive engineering. So even though math is not my thing, reading blueprints and stuff for cars and stuff, it was my jam. And so to me, this is just a blueprint, but it's just in crochet format. So why this is being done is that somebody last week wanted a revision to one of my patterns, and I did not have the answer for her. So I actually did the revision, but I want to change the diagram out. See how you have to move that center point every time. It's a sin. My mother would say it's a sin. It's a damn sin. So now we're going to rotate that around. So, and this diagram here, we read it in the opposite direction. So this one, we're going to go opposite. And we're going to bend. We're going to go the other way. Okay, so when I do this diagram, it's going to matter which side the building chain is on. And this was all on layer. Christ. I guess it doesn't matter. Okay, this, we're going to get rid of that. And we move to our next one. The next one's our single crochet going up, and there'll be black. So I put the shape in first, determine the height, and it's just a rough guess on the distance between the two. There is some kind of mathematical calculation. I actually have it, but I don't bother to use it because I can eye it pretty good. So that's where the square is, and I need black going down. So if you hold down, if you highlight the shape and then you hold the command key, it takes an identical copy of it down instead of pasting copy. And by my stitch counts, if this was 7, this one has to be 9 because it's single crochet. And so these ones count as 1 of 9, 2 of 9, so that there's only 7 steps that are involved in the middle. So we take 9, subtract 2, gives you 8 steps. And then Option Command B will then do that. So do you see the top of the shape doesn't exactly match? So that's something that we need to fix. But if the base is following down like it does, we just want to bend it slightly and match it, because if you don't do it now, it makes a difference in the future. Just the ever so slight, customers will never even notice that really, but I do. And so we're going to take the 2 duplicates and take it to the other side. So we're going to put the first one in, and then we're going to duplicate that one over. It's just off ever so slightly. So now what we're going to do is that we have how many spaces left? We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we have 5 blending options. So we're going to blend this guy 5 times. 5. And then Option Command B, that fills that space in. But after they're in, what we have to do is we have to expand the object in case we ever have to change the color. Expand. And we get rid of this guy. And because we copy in a rotational, this corner right here goes right here when we do the rotation. So this guy has to come out. We know the spacing is right. These guys can come out, and this will go to round number 3. Current layer. So I'm going to hide layer 1 and layer 3. We're going to put these guys all in the round 2 layer. And we're moving over. Okay, good. Okay, so we're going to take this guy and go in rotation. I don't even know the statistic on how many of our crocheters actually use these things. But that did not work out. Try again. So the diagrams I cannot solve, figure out in my head is the knitting diagrams. That one I have not been able to solve. in my brain. So Wendy is my assistant in this thing. We should take a poll on that. I'd probably be disappointed on how many people don't actually use it. Wendy, what do you think? So this guy goes in this direction. So we're going to take it up. And this was layer 1, 2, and 3. I'm wondering the wrong side. We should make that a different color. We're going to make that green. If you're colorblind, it might be a problem, but yeah. And so Wendy actually learned how to, when I pulled the diagrams out on the cruise ship, people were like, oh my God. But then some people actually do come to epiphany and realize it's not so bad. And then other people still hate it. Okay, so we're going to need, what is that? That is a front loop only, single crochet. Right there. Okay, we're going to do something before I go too far. So I remember what this is. Because I would not remember that later. Okay, we're going to place the shape. The front loops and the back loops are kind of difficult as well because of the base of this cannot be a certain way. So we have to be very careful with that. So if it's single crochet, that means there's only growth by 1. We have to put that onto layer number 4. These guys have to be blue. It's the next one. So it is a baby shower blanket. So yeah, so Laura's got the right answer on that. And it's also says it right there too. Yeah, so anyway, the crocheter doesn't want to do it as a square. She wants a rectangle. So anyway, I did figure it out as a rectangle, and I actually have a real sample done already. So I'm not sure how to do the rectangle diagrams. So I'm doing a fresh version of a square because I might be able to alter the square diagram to make it rectangle. But it's like anything in design. It's like it's never the right shape, or it's never the right something. Something is always wrong. You know how it is. So if there's 11, 11 minus 2 gives you 9. So I find these diagrams are actually making me more mathematically figuring stuff out in my head, which is like shocking. I know. Don't get excited about that though. Okay, and we also need the blue. So yeah. So the corners are still single crochet, but the ones in between are front loops. So Laura's saying that she's made many of these guys. I kind of secretly behind the scenes, I kind of got, it's not jealousy, it's more envy because that's a nicer word. But Jeannie's Hugs and Kisses went so viral. I've never been able to have a viral pattern ever. And I'm like, God, you were so lucky. So lucky. And so anyway, so I decided to challenge myself to try and design something. So I looked at what made it popular, and I think it's the texture. And so anyway, I came up with my own version of this. So these shapes right here have to be handled with delicacy right here. So they have to line up. The U has to line up to the shape underneath. But the top has to lean, so we can't touch. So my problem is when I started doing this is that I was I was rotating that U to kind of bend a little bit, and I should not be doing that. And so anyway, it was warping my diagrams by misunderstanding that U should never be turned. It should always stay straight up like it's a chalice or a cup or a bowl. And so if I do it this way, so I have how many spaces? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So if I have 7, I have 7 spots to fill. So this should actually work. 7. And that was not the right answer. I don't know why it changes that. So do you see the top bends, but the U stays the same? And this was reading in the direction of the other way. This is number 4. We're going to get rid of that guy, and we're going to make sure all of this is on layer 4. It is. So Tiffany is getting slowly getting to understand the diagrams. Yep. So Wendy P is working on one of our older patterns. And we need to expand that item. If I want to cut this guy to make it if I want to expand and make this into a rectangle, I've got to make sure that the shapes are expanded. Not that it matters to you, but I'm just saying that myself for my own benefit. Okay, so that was number 4. And so we have 11 stitches. Okay, next one is a double crochet round. And it's black. Okay, we'll get rid of that guy out. Move the box up. And we're doing black. So you see the corners are kind of just a guess on where they're sitting. Those are not really anything scientific. So if there's double crochet, that means that we're going to expand by 4 stitches. So this means it turns into 15. With crochet squares, the better. Most squares have an odd number between the corners. So we're going to, so 15 minus 2 gives you 13 spaces. So there's the tops. So we always have to do the first two. If it's single crochet, we have to line the first one up on our own. And then if it's 2 stitches in the corner, we have to line them up manually on their own. And then the rest of them will fall in line like this guy. And do you see how the one is not quite there? It works out. So we just have to bend these guys over a little bit. So the length of the stitch doesn't really matter. It's always the location that it's pointing to is the big deal. I think they're in the chat. They're talking about slow crochet. Remember, crochet is not a race. Never was. The media focuses on speed and stuff like that for like records and stuff, but it really doesn't matter to me. It's the journey that takes you there, and you can comment to this if you feel as strongly about it. But I feel like sometimes I'm upset at the end of a project is that I'm done the project, and because the fun part is actually the journey itself and not necessarily the ending. So I think there's a lot of emphasis on crocheters' speed, but it's really not about the speed at all. So I'm just checking. Crochet will never see this variation difference, but I will know it's there. Yeah. So anyway, the stitch alongs are really more designed so that you can do some like milestone goals. So we're going to count the stitches 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So we have 9 steps here. And we're going to expand that guy out. And this guy is red in this direction. Number 5. Okay, so we're going to get rid of these guys and move them to the right layer. They're just going to layer 5. So round 5. Okay. 360 divided by 4. There's 4 pieces of the pie. So I agree with Wendy Penrod is that I'm a visual learner too, but I also write out steps and I do stuff like this to actually help myself because I can't really teach. So when I'm filming for you guys, I'm not necessarily watching my stitches, but I'm watching these diagrams and behind the scenes and I'm following the diagram. So because my hands automatically do it. Okay, so the next one is going to be a pain in the ass. The next one is wrong side. So going in the green. You know what? I think these are the wrong colors. I'm going to make green as the right side because that seems obvious. And red is the wrong side because that seems like that's a better natural fit. So the next one is a faux popcorn stitch. They're a pain in the ass to do. Let's just start and just figure it out. So I need a single crochet and a treble. And the trebles are always way too big for the stitch. So let's shrink this stitch down to a more manageable size. And let's separate these guys out further. Get smaller. And trebles always has two lines. So this is a double, this is a treble. Okay, so this is going to be the height. Here. And to keep it balanced, what we're going to do is we're going to make this taller to keep it the same height. And we need blue. Take that over with us. And in this one here, we have 17 stitches, 17, 18, 19 stitches. And manageable size is always better. Damn right. It's the right answer. Okay, so we're going to have to figure this out. So if there's 19 stitches minus 2 gives you 17. So there's 17 steps in between. Command Option B. So here's the tops of the stitches. So I'm going to worry about and then the other side I have this. I might as well just start alternating this stuff now. And then he goes over. And then he goes over. He goes over. There is a method to the madness. Let's fix this guy. down. And then we're going to fix these guys here. So just be aware that there is a huge sale at yarnspirations.com. It's 40% off yarn site-wide, and also there's a sign-up a thing at the bottom of their website or at the bottom of the screen. So if you sign up and get the notifications through text messaging or whatever, you get an extra 50% off, or sorry, an extra 10% off. So you get a total of 50%. Okay, so we have to think about what we're going to do here. So I got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So I'm going to have 5 steps of this guy. And then the other guy I have, we're going to expand this before I go too far. And then the other guy's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Okay, so these guys will have 6 steps. So Darlene's got a big order today. Big. I'm obsessed with that Red Heart Bitty Stripes yarn. Obsessed. So that just filled in that space, and then we're going to expand that out. And that is faux popcorn right there. So we're now going to make sure it's all in the same layer. So this is round number 6. And we're going to rotate this guy around. And 4 pieces of pie. Okay, and this was going in what direction? This was going in the wrong direction, so, or wrong side. So we're going to do that. And this is number 6. So MDL, Michael wants every color bitty stripes, but literally no room. Been stocking up on the big twist. So what's the price been like on the big twist? I know I saw advertising this morning, which kind of doesn't make sense for me, but Joanne, I guess, is doing a big, well, not Joanne anymore. They're clearance company that's doing it. They're having a big sale. So I'm not even sure why they're advertising in Canada. So I'm surprised I saw it on my feed. I would have thought that Joanne would be targeting Americans because they don't ship across the border. So I'm kind of surprised to see it on my Facebook feed this morning because I'm Canadian, as you know. Just cooling down. Okay. Okay, that was number 6. Number 7 is back to double crochet row. And so we're going to grab black. There's a lot of fake sales going around. I know. I almost got caught in a scam 2 days ago. Oh, it was hell. I'm not going to explain what it was, but it was pretty bad. Just, it's so hard to trust anything online that you see. So difficult. And I'm not even sure, like, my biggest argument is I don't even understand why humans are doing that to each other, where we can't even trust what we see. But it's all for the almighty dollar, I suppose. Some of you probably know my backstory, but I almost got called in a class action lawsuit with one of our sponsors, like really early on in my career. And it was hell. It was hell on earth. And honestly, yeah. So anyway, I was going to be, it was going to, I think, what was it? What are they going to call that? Accessory to create fraud or accessory to fraud. I think that's what I was going to be labeled as. Anyway, it scared the hell out of me because, you know, so many times a week is you get approached in my position of, can you advertise this? Can you advertise that? And we're going to give you money to do it. I'm like, okay. So in the very beginning, because I didn't know any better and social media was so new at the time, is that I did that for a company, and it turns out they ran with everybody's money, but they strung us along. And you know how they got caught? It was the funniest thing. They actually screwed themselves so hard, which they deserved it, honestly. But they decided they had all these customers that had orders, and they decided that they were going to email their list. But what they did is they emailed everybody as a group without hiding either everybody's email. So usually they blind carbon copy people, so you don't ever see who else the email went to. And the entire list of all their customers that had orders that were not getting the orders were in the 2-line. Anyway, the lawyers got a hold of that son of a bitch, and they just said, oh my God. So people realized it wasn't just them that were waiting for their orders that never were going to happen, but it was literally hundreds of people. And they totally deserved what they got as far as the company. Anyway, so it scared the hell out of me. And so I made that decision. I think it was 2011 this happened. And I made the decision that if I'm ever going to work for a company or get sponsored, that I have to understand who they are, how they operate, and the whole 9 yards. So we've never had a lot of sponsors because there's so many companies out there that I just don't trust. So there's some companies that I trust that you can tell I'm okay with. Yarn Inspirations is one of them for sure. Jimmy Beans is another up and up company, but there's other companies I would never want to be involved with. And I'm not going to say who they were because then it validates them as a company out of my mouth, and I don't want that. And so it taught the lesson is that just because somebody's willing to give you money to say something doesn't mean you should. Because everything you build can come crashing down on you, right? So anyway, so that's one thing I love about Yarn Inspirations is that they're accountable, and we work well together. Okay, so we're gonna do 23 minus 6. Oh my God, I don't think I can do that in my head. So it's 8 times 2 is 16, 17. So 17 spots. Anyway, so the company that was doing that to everybody, they the person, my contact person, was really shady as hell. And anyway, I just kept getting strung along like everybody else did, and it was just like, anyway. Yep. And that's not what we want. We want to rotate this guy. Oh, no, we want to put it to layer 7. And rotate. So these diagrams get harder the bigger they get because it's more zoomed out for me. Okay, so that was 23 spots. Next one. So the next line is actually the repeat start. So all of this has to be done first. And line number 6 was that way. So line number 8 is the start of a repeat. And it's got to be blue. Okay, it is a V-stitch with 2 in there. How in the hell do I not have a V-stitch with 2? That's 3. Well, there's not even a V-stitch with 1. Oh, there's 1. I'll just grab this guy. And the V-stitch is on the third one in. Not surprised that works. Okay, so the corners are unique on this guy. The corners actually have 3 double crochet. And let's move these to number 8. Is Daniel playing his piano for the birds? Daniel's at the doctor's. He's fine. Okay, so this one is equivalent to 27 stitches. Oh, it works out because it's a chain 2, it's not chain 1. Okay, so let's just see where the spacing is going to be on this. So there's 25 steps. You heard music, not here. That's the sound of my heat pump. You hear in the background the hum. The whole house is on a heat pump on the one level and then in-floor heating for everything else, which is super expensive. I do not recommend it, period. End of story. Goodbye. It's really over. It's just crazy. Our power bill is, or I call it hydro, is outrageous. I would never put it into a house in-floor heating unless if I was to redo my life and to rebuy a different property. I would never do it twice. Okay, so there's 3 double crochets that will be on the corners. So Krista has that in the bathrooms. I can see one room, but the whole house being on the in-floor heating. Our hydro bill, or power bill as you guys call it, is $8,000 a year. Yep. It is insanity. So when people are crying about their $100 bills or $200 power bills, I'm like, okay. So one thing that we have to get done this year, we have to look at our heating costs and evaluation of our equipment. Okay, so I do not like the look of this, so I'm just going to go a little bit. Do you still have the snow on the ground up there? Hardly any's left. So we're coming out of winter, but because we're in the Maritimes, we will not see really good weather until July. So unlike Ontario, from where Daniel and I came from, the leaves don't start really being noticeable until June. So I think the weather is delayed. If I recall, it's about 2 to 3 weeks behind where we come from. So we're dying for spring. We're dying for spring. And usually where we came from is May 2-4 weekend, Victoria Day. Is usually like, barbecue, hot dogs, good weather. But here it's a little bit, it's on the touchy side because of the ocean. However, we have nice long falls here because of the ocean. So where we lose it on one side of the season, we gain it on the other. Okay, so we are going to do this. We know the heights are proper. And we are going to adjust this guy to the third one. So we just got to adjust this side and then do a copy. Anyway, the biggest appeal for me was we don't really get our snow holding on the ground until about it's around January, sometimes February, before it really starts to hold. So our weather here in the Maritime, where I live in particular, the weather hovers around zero, like at the freezing mark, and it depends on the year too. But we've had a pretty chilly winter so far, but it's been needed. A warm winter in this area means that the crops are not going to do well, so they need the cold snap and the cold length of time and the snow for the orchards and everything in our region. So as much as you want beautiful Florida-like weather, it comes at a cost. And it's, yeah. And if it's too warm, then the insects that are meant to die off don't die off, and then you end up with an infestation of bugs that are more than you're used to. What's my elevation? I'm just above seawater, or sea level here. The Bay of Fundy is around the corner from my home. Well, actually not the Bay of Fundy, but the Minas Basin, which connects to the Bay of Fundy. It's just literally around the corner of my home. When we looked at Nova Scotia, Houston was getting a hurricane, and I told Daniel, I said, if we're moving to Nova Scotia, we're not going oceanside. So we're on a basin. that is connected, but we're not directly connected to the ocean. Like as far as the property, so. 1, 2, 3, 4. So we're going to, this is repeating, blending it. There's going to be 3 repeats. Okay, this did not work. Why? Why? Because it's not 3, it's 5. So anyway, so watching the people of Houston kind of struggle, I told Daniel, I said, I'm not buying Oceanside. Okay, it's not 7 either. And I have to go, and I'll be back in a little bit. Sorry, something's just come up.
Oh, wow. Just wow. I've seen paint dry with more compelling plot twists. Apparently, professional content creator now means someone who can hold a phone and accidentally press record. Thanks for sharing that experience with me. Misery loves company, I guess. My wine glass is also tragically empty, and I'm pretty sure my popcorn bowl is now just a sad, oily husk of its former self. And, like, obviously, we're taking this one to our graves. Hey, remember that time I watched Mikey? Yeah, no, that's a secret for the ages. Next Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern. Let me check my schedule. Oh, look, it's completely clear. I have nothing better to do than subject myself to further entertainment. It can only get better, right?